My man's a taxi driver. My man's a taxi driver.
Adventures of a Taxi Driver was made in 1975. It was released in 1976, early 1976, and it was the hottest summer that England had had for many, many years. And I was a bit worried that this might affect the box office, but it didn't. People queued round the block to see this movie, and the heat wave didn't seem to have any effect. In fact, it came number 8 in the top 10 of that year. That was in a year when Jaws took first place, naturally, and it took more money than Taxi Driver, which was Martin Scorsese's film with Robert De Niro and Jodie Foster, and that was quite satisfying because this was a low-budget movie, which as opposed to a very, very high budget of Taxi Driver, and so it was very satisfying. It had a very, very big release all over England. The titles I got Brian Forbes to do. He was a very famous artist who'd done lots of work for Penthouse and Playboy magazine, and he produced a jolly set of titles which were very fitting for the film. The opening sequence I made as a sort of look at life documentary style, with a very serious commentary about the wonderful London cabbie and how wonderful they were, and of course the pictures were showing a completely different story. For example, that they showed due consideration for their customers and they got out and helped them in with their cases. The film, of course, showing that they never got out of their seats at all. It's interesting to note that cab drivers had an exemption from wearing seatbelts on the grounds that they couldn't keep taking their seatbelt on and off to get in and out of the cab to let people in, which of course they never did. So the commentary was a bit of a jib at taxi drivers, but you know, they're pretty resilient characters and they didn't mind having the Mickey taken out of them. In fact, they were one of my most fervent audiences. You know, they loved the film. It also depicted they'd pick up anybody, and of course they used to go for the pretty girls in the film, and just generally speaking, having a go at taxi drivers, which proved to be a very successful gimmick to use at the beginning of the film.
For their whimsical charm and delightful disposition, perhaps more than any other form of public transport, the taxi driver holds a unique place in the hearts of the people. Not least his fellow road users, who appreciate to the full that quiet, courteous patience, that affable, friendly manner, that consideration for his fellow motorists, with whom he is always ready to exchange a friendly wave and some merry little quip.
At one point I got my very good friend and film producer Pete Walker to come and bring his rolls down, and we staged a crash from a careless taxi driver who made him crash into a bollard. This was a bit of an in-joke, and here he comes. I was driving the taxi, which was a double, and the scriptwriter was getting into the cab, so it was all a bit of an in-joke, but it worked anyway with the audience, who thought it was very funny. Of course, it was funnier because it was a Rolls Royce. If it had been an ordinary car, it wouldn't have been as funny. It's funny that how crashing up very expensive cars is always funnier than crashing up inexpensive cars. I also opened with a sort of the way taxi drivers are when you give them a very small tip. Not very pleased about it. Barry Evans, who I cast as Joe the cabbie, he was marvellous. He was a wonderful actor who'd made a name for himself in the Doctor in the House series and also with Mind Your Language on television. I decided very early on to use the technique that I'd first seen Lewis Gilbert use in Alfie, and that was Michael Caine talking to the audience. This is a very difficult thing to do, and not many actors can do it well, because it means getting out of the character, talking to the audience, and then getting back into the character again. And it's very surprising. It's not as easy as it looks. And to make it work, the actors really got to be able to do this well. And Michael Caine could do it, and Barry was very good at it too. So I used this throughout the film, and it was a very good device, in fact, because it brings the audience closer to the comedy and closer to the film. And in fact, the audience feel part of the film. The great Diana Dors was a wonderful character for me to have. I'd used her several times, and though she was enormously successful in the 50s, she'd played character parts. She put a bit of weight on, and she didn't mind. She was very good at playing character parts. And I used to film her sequences all in one day because she was quite expensive relatively for me. I think I paid her £500 to do the part. The worst experiences I had with actors and actresses, they say don't work with animals or children, and that's very true. The child in this sequence was an absolute nightmare. It drove me nuts. She couldn't do this and she couldn't do that, and she screamed and she cried, and I was getting very frustrated because, you know, on a low budget, time is a very important factor, and I could have strangled her. But we did get the scene done in the end, and I think it was good, and it added to the whole sequence of the whole idea that Joe really wanted to get out of his home life and get into a situation where he was on his own. He had a little thief of a brother who was a nightmare to him, and that was played by a young actor who I'm not quite sure the name of, but I don't think he did very much after. He wasn't a very good actor, I must say, but he tried his best, and we got a performance of sorts out of him. I think he was a friend of the scriptwriters. That was the problem.
Good deal, isn't it? I mean, it's not rubbish, is it?
Hey, you said you got a proper job.
Well, I have. I mean, I'm doing it proper now, aren't I? Been working very hard at it.
This scene was photographed in a house in just off Maida Vale, and we rented a house because we never used studios for our pictures. That was out of the question. The budgets wouldn't allow it, so they were always shot on location. And this house actually provided the bathroom that you'll see later with Angie Schooler, and the kitchen, and the exterior of the Angie Schooler sequence. So we had a full day's shooting there, or a full couple of days shooting there. Nice to put in little touches like the porridge being chucked all over his face, which was another little comedy thing which we made up on the set. Not all these things are in the script. You sort of have the basic script and then you add to them as you go along. The trick is to get them to fit in the action.
I tell you what'd cheer me up, be to pick up a nice bit of crumpet. Very handy for introductions, this motor.
It was very important to show Barry as a sort of cheeky guy who was always after the girls and went out, and he had an eye for the girls, so we shot lots of footage of his point of view from the cab, of all the girls that he encountered, and he was always on the lookout for a pair of legs and pretty girls riding bicycles. And we set all these up, of course, and it sort of set his character up, as it were. I think the girls that we used were just girls that were on the crew and friends that we pulled in to do because everybody wants to be in a film. So these are ideal little cameos for people who say, do you want to be in a film, you know? And some of the girls actually just happened to be walking along. I mean, they had no idea they were going to be in a film. I wonder if they ever saw it.
Where to, darling?
The first scene in the film, one of the first scenes, was played by Jane Hayden, who was the sister of Linda Hayden, who famously was the girlfriend of Robin Asquith of the Confessions films. It's rather ironic, really, but she was a good little actress. She had a lovely figure, and she did the first scene with the bridge. Now, the interesting thing is that we go to Lambeth Bridge, and I didn't get any permissions. We just shot it. We used to hold the traffic up. It was quite cheeky, really. I don't think you'd be able to do that so easily today. In 1975, there wasn't so much traffic about, and you could get away with things. We shot the main part of the film right in the middle of Lambeth Bridge, and it had a little place where you could climb up. I mean, health and safety in this day and age would have gone mad to see what we were doing, because the artist was climbing up onto the bridge, and we shot all that part in a long shot, and then for the close-ups we went to the other side of the river and faked it. Jane was standing on a chair, and then I got the cameraman up on a chair to point the camera down, and you'll see how it fits in. All Barry is concerned about is he's not getting his fare, and he completely overlooks the fact that she's actually trying to commit suicide on the bridge. And then when it dawns on him, and here comes the close-ups that we did, which was done across the river in the safety of dry land, and there was no danger of Jane falling in the river. But I think it looks quite effective. It looks as if she's still standing up on the parapet.
Don't try and stop me. It's too late. My mind's made up.
No, wait! Don't do it!
Pain, the suffering will only end when the icy waters close over me, carrying me away into oblivion.
Funny bird.
Dreamless sleep of eternity.
While all this was going on, while the bridge bit was being filmed, of course, my assistant director was actually holding the traffic up, and they were all ranting and raving about being held up, but we just managed to do it, and it was just quite remarkable. I mean, nowadays they would have got, even the smallest television program, they would have got the police out, and they'd have had masses of people, they would have closed the bridge, and they would have had permission to do this and that and the other. We just used to go in and do it, because that was low-budget filmmaking, and you had to be quick about it, but it worked, and gave us the scenes that we wanted. Or if it would have been a big film, they would have built Lambeth Bridge, for Christ's sake, in the studio. It cost millions of dollars. They would have built the bridge and done it that way. We couldn't do all that. I mean, this was not the way we made the films.
I myself properly. I'm a failure at everything.
No, you just need cheering up, that's all.
Of course, this was an ideal opportunity to take Linda home, and which Barry did in the cab, and got her down there, and she was obviously a good candidate for getting her kit off. Of course, the usual thing with Stanley Long films is that they get interrupted. The husband comes home, or the boyfriend comes home, right in the middle of it all. Jane did have a wonderful figure, and that's probably what it was all about. But not just, I just don't like gratuitous sex scenes. They have to have an element of comedy about them, and I think then they're okay. And I mean, here we have a girl with a fabulous figure who's about to sort of be waylaid with Barry, and of course in walks the boyfriend. It's Ian Lavender. Ian Lavender was famously, he was famous for the part he played in Dad's Army. He was Pike, if you remember. Don't tell me your name, Pike. But he comes in, and he was in several of my films as well. Always a good supporting actor. And Barry has to make his escape, and it was quite interesting to engineer this. They were so busy, wrapped up in the argument, that he makes his escape. He got to get his shirt, so it's interesting the way he did that. See, a lot of these things are made up on the set. You know, you can't actually envisage exactly how things are going to work. You've got the basic outline of the script, the funny situation, and then you improvise these little touches which make the scene work.
I've got to go to work sometimes, you know, without you thinking I'm leaving you and threatening to commit suicide.
You drive me to it. You're so cruel to me, thank you.
Oh, don't be so stupid. I mean, you're sick, that's your trouble.
Oh, yes. That's always your attitude. You never think. And you still haven't remembered.
Remembered what, for heaven's sake?
It's my birthday.
So what's important about a birthday?
And Barry makes his escape without any problems and gets back to his job as working his cab. So his main consideration, obviously, is making a few bob, but he has all these adventures on the way.
I'd like to take her out and push her under a bus.
Don't you talk about your little sister like that. I won't have it.
Sister? She's not even human.
It was necessary to keep cutting back to his home life because eventually he's going to leave that. And also we've got to introduce his girlfriend, Carol, which is another thing that has to come up. So, a little bit of play with the mother and a little bit of aggravation in the flat, just to give him the reason that he's gonna actually have to get out of this situation and get on his own.
Just tell him, will you? Just tell him to get rid of it.
No. I've had as much as I can take. I'll wash my hands of the whole bleeding lot of you. That's it, as far as I'm concerned.
Why don't you get rid of the stuff you've already got before you bring more in? It's getting so that I can't even move around my own house.
What's all that gear doing in my bedroom?
I'll bring her bloody little neck, so help me I will.
Peter!
Little monster.
Once again, we were using the house, which I mentioned early on, the kitchen, but for the exterior, we used a completely different location. And that's another thing you have to really be flexible with. When you're finding locations, it's not always possible to use the exterior, because the exterior has to have a different look probably to what the exterior of the location you're on is. So you shift the location and you make it match. The inside kitchen and the outside were totally different locations, several miles apart in fact. So when Barry leaves, when Joe leaves the kitchen and bumps into his girlfriend, there she is, the great Adrian Poster. What a wonderful actress she was. She was like a manic robot, and she said her dialogue so fast, and she had the brilliant script of Michael Armstrong for the words, but she interpreted it beautifully. Now, when we return, we go to the exterior, it's a completely different location that we're using. Now, you wouldn't really know that, would you? But they were miles apart, and we continued the rest of the scene on this location, which was a kind of down market location to what the exterior of the kitchen we were using at the time. But Joe has a lot of problems with his girlfriend throughout the picture. She's a very possessive little girlfriend who she pops up at the most inopportune moments, and the dialogue was hilarious.
What?
That's what you were supposed to take me to. Gone with the Wind.
Oh, come on. You must have seen it 10 times.
11.
What with that and Lady and the Tramp every year at Christmas, it's enough to drive anyone up the wall.
Well, you don't have to come. I mean, nobody's forcing you to. I mean, you don't have to care if I'm on my own. Probably being molested in the back row.
Oh, come on. Who's going to molest you?
Lots of people, if I let 'em. Anyway, you always do.
Adrian had been a very successful actress. She was very versatile. She had great musical experience. She was a singer. In fact, she sang the title song "Cruising Casanova" for the film, which was composed by her boyfriend at the time, Graham Prescott, and we had a record made of it, and that was put out as a single quite successfully. And she was a great tie-up with Lulu, who was and she did a lot of television with Lulu, a very similar kind of character to Lulu, but she'd been in some very, very good plays on television, like Bar Mitzvah Boy, and Jack Rosenthal loved her. You know, he wrote her into his shows quite a lot. But I used Adrian, must be 3 films she was in for me, but she was always a great asset to the cast.
No.
Have you ever caught me, when I've been out with you, even looking at another woman?
A lot of people said Adrian was very difficult to work with, but I didn't ever find that. We worked very well together, and she was never any problem. People said that she used to arrive late, all sorts of things, you know, things get about, and they're absolutely nonsense. And I think a lot of it's the way that these artists are treated, you know. If they're treated badly, I think they can be very awkward. But if you treat them properly and you respect them, and I think that works very well. I never had any trouble with any artist from what I can remember. Probably only one, which is another matter. But it's not in this film, by the way.
Yeah?
I'll see you later.
No. I haven't finished yet.
A lot of the film was taking place in a mews, which was just by Notting Hill Gate. I rented the house that was in the mews, which was at the end of Prince's Mews in London. And it had a large garage underneath, and this is where Tom was. Tom was the mechanic, played by Robert Lindsay. It was his first film, he reminds me to this day, and his girlfriend was Nikki, who was a stripper, and that set the scene up for most of the a lot of the action took place in the flat above the garage in this mews, and I rented the mews and the garage for £200 a week. We had a whole week shooting almost in there, and that was quite a lot of money in 1975. The story as it was centred around this mews.
You know that flat you got upstairs?
Yeah, what about it?
Well, it's got 2 bedrooms, right?
Just about, yeah.
Yeah, well, I've got this problem, see?
I got Judy Geeson to play Nikki.
Seeing as how we're mates.
You'll see her in a minute. She was a very, very glamorous girl at the time and quite well known. Her previous film had been Brannigan, which she'd played with John Wayne, the mighty John Wayne, in a film that was made in England. When I went to see her agent and I suggested Judy Geeson, who hadn't worked, actually, as far as I knew, since Brannigan, and I said to him, you know, there's a few days for Judy in this cast, who was a friend of Barry Evans, who played the cabbie, and I said to him, it's only £500. He said, what, £500? You must be joking. She got $40,000 for her last movie. I said, yeah, but I said, it wasn't successful, was it? I said, and she hadn't worked for 2 years, so, and I think she was in a bit of a depression mood. And you see, in those days, there wasn't a lot of work about. Artists were very short of work. And you know, I came along and offered, anyway, she did it in the end, and I'm glad she did. She was fabulous in the role because she's a very experienced actress. She was the sister of Sally Geeson, who'd made a big name on television in sitcoms, and she worked with Barry very well, and of course all the cast, Robert Lindsay, Barry, Adrian Poster, they all knew one another. They'd been in a movie several years back called Round the Mulberry Bush, and so I brought them all together again, really. That was part of the reason why I went after her. But you know, this was all part of building the story up, and you know, we had the little montages in between of Barry at work doing his thing, and they sort of set up the situations for these various situations which came along. I think this was my next door neighbour, actually. She wanted a part in the film, so I said, come along and be a customer, and that was the way we used to get our extras. And my father, this is my father getting out of the cab. He was purloined for that job. And I think we had the cameraman and all sorts of people actually made little special appearances. Now, the scene in the flat with Bob Lindsay was inspired by the experience of a friend of mine. I lived in a house where he had the flat downstairs, and I remember him. One morning, I said to him, "What's the matter? You look ashen." So he said, "I had the most terrible experience last night." He said, I met this girl. He said, I chatted her up. He said, I took her out to dinner. He said, and I took her home. And he said, she stayed the night with me. He said, what I didn't know is she was a stripper from a nightclub, and he said, I went to the bathroom in the middle of the night, and I turned round and there was a bloody snake in the bath. He said, I nearly had a heart attack. He said, it was terrible. It was a great big bloody python. And he said, I learnt that this girl was the stripper and she had this snake as part of her act. He said, and she bunged it in the bath and hadn't told me, and of course I discovered it. He said, I was flabbergasted. He said, I couldn't believe it, and he said, it's really shaken me up. He said, I'll never trust a girl again. So I used this as the theme of the comedy that was going to come. I did extend it a bit, as you'll see later, but it was a great story, and I used it to great effect in Taxi Driver.
Why you're making such a fuss? Give me his basket.
I don't know how you'd feel if you found a snake in your bath. I mean, I almost had a heart attack. Are you sure that thing's going to be safe in there?
We had a lot of trouble with the snake, though. Once again, working with children and animals. I'll tell you about that later.
There we are.
Of course, with low-budget films, you always look for the locations where you can shoot things, that you know you have in the script. And this occasion was a little cafe in North London, which we had where Joe meets another one of his girlfriends that works in the cafe as a waitress. Of course, we've got to set this up because there's more to come with the snake, which was a bit of a cheeky scene to do and wasn't part of my friend's original experience, but it was made up. It was an extension of his experience, and it was a bit saucy, as you'll see.
Oh, that's what they call it, is it? What's the matter with you, eh? You've forgotten what it's like? He thinks he invented.
But a little bit of banter with his fellow cab drivers, who I noticed now weren't wearing their badges. Bit of an oversight, but, you know, you can see these things after you've done them. But this is supposed to be a cafe where all the cab drivers congregate, and it was. That's what it was.
You reckon that's all there is to this job, don't you? Pulling birds.
And what do you reckon it's all about, then?
You're all the bloody same. Out on the road for a couple of years, think you know it all. You'll find out.
Sure.
How's that dreadful brother of yours?
What, Peter? Dreadful.
What do you fancy, then?
What do you think? Give us a dog roll, will you?
One dog roll. He's going to get done one of these days, the way he carries on.
More than likely. Still, I shan't be there to see it. Moved out. Couldn't stand it any longer. Got my own place now.
Moved in with Carol, have you?
Not bloody likely.
Yeah. When are you going to invite me round, then?
Any time you like, darling.
Well, I'm free tonight.
Funny you should say that. So am I. Pick up about 7, right?
Right.
Hey!
And once again, we're back at the Mews, this time at night. And Joe's taken the girl back to the flat. And of course, we don't know what's going to happen at this stage of the game, but suddenly it will be revealed.
Of course not. It's being emotionally honest. What could be wrong with that? Besides, with the fact
now, once again, Joe's getting involved with the girl, and he's going to be interrupted, not by the husband or the boyfriend this time, but a snake. And of course, Monty, the snake, gets out. Now, one of the very difficult things of filming with animals is the fact that they don't know, they can't take direction. So it was a nightmare because I wanted the snake to get out, come over to the bed and somehow get up onto the bed, and we had to show the snake making its way towards the couple, and it would not. I mean, to try and get that snake to go around the door was an absolute nightmare. You couldn't entice it with anything. You just had to let it go its own way. And I had the most terrible trouble. And I found, and this one, we had, one of the cameramen was actually pulling its head up and pulling it onto the bed to get the shot we wanted, because snakes don't go upwards like that unless they got anything to hold on to. And of course, that's absolutely rubbish, really. If you talk to someone that's an expert with snakes, they'll say that's nonsense. The snake couldn't possibly do that. But it worked, and you know, you have to resort to these things because the scene's got to work. And the whole scene was absolutely outrageous, and the censor let it through because he said it was well done and it was funny, and so he'd let it. But it was quite salacious in many respects and very, very naughty. The other thing is, of course, cab drivers get to deliver parcels. So we had to have one where he delivered a parcel. And, of course, it had to be that the parcel was being delivered to a very beautiful woman. And it had to be that there was some way that the woman got our Joe to come into her house. She was Mrs. de Vere Clifton and was played by Prudence Drage, who'd been in one of my earlier movies, Eskimo Nell. She had the most fantastic figure of any artist I've ever met, and she was. I did resort to a lot of double entendres in this, as a sort of homage to the Carry-Ons, I suppose. But it seemed to be very appropriate that double entendres were fitted into this scene. And it was a bit contrived, I suppose, to have her to get her into bed, because you know, what do you do? But that's what the film's all about. It's about the cabbie's sexy encounters. So, but it worked very well, and Mrs. de Vere Clifton had good reason to retain the taxi driver in a flat or house.
Oh, be an angel, would you, and just slip it between my lips?
Oh, the glass. Yes, of course.
Oh, sorry to put you to all this inconvenience.
I really went to town on the double entendres in this, I must say.
Someone arrives. Yesterday, it was the television repairman. The day before, it was the plumber. And as for the window cleaner, well, every time he comes now, I seem to be in the bath.
I see.
Oh, you wouldn't be an angel, would you, and undo it for me? It's for a dinner tonight. My husband's in cement.
Oh, must be uncomfortable for him.
It's a presentation dinner, you see. So I thought I'd wear green to go with my nail varnish.
Very nice.
Seems to be all right now. You're not in a rush, are you? It's just I'd like to try it on to make sure it fits.
No, of course not.
Oh, good.
One of the things that you always are looking for when you shoot these films, and make them a little bit more interesting, these scenes, is business, what we call in the business. Something for the artist to do rather than just stand around and look vacant. And one of the things we had in this room, there were a very, very popular toy of the day, which was one of these ball bearing swing things, and I thought it'd be a good idea if he did it and the balls fell off, and that was a good way of getting him into contact again with this woman. And of course then that was a good opportunity for her to ask him to help her with the dress, which of course obviously falls off, revealing this fantastic figure that she had.
Yeah, I see what you mean. It is stuck, isn't it?
Maybe.
Incidentally, she was a great singer. She sang a film in my first movie, Eskimo Nell, and in her first movie rather, and she was a great singer, but she had there was no question of any surgery in those days. She had the most fantastic figure, and of course Barry had to get her into bed, but we had to have a reason, because once again I hate gratuitous sex just for the sake of it. So the idea that the taxi meter was clicking up the pounds on the outside while he performed on the inside was quite a funny concept. And although it was his own cab, when he came out at the end of the scene and saw that the cab had clocked up £5 something or other, which was a huge amount of money in those days for a cab. I think the cab fare started at 1 shilling and 9pence or something like that, and that was it. I mean, that was the scene.
Another satisfied customer, and the dress did fit after all. £6. I suppose I can't really ask her for me fare now.
This, incidentally, was the exterior of the house that we used for the kitchen with Diana Dors. So once again, you know, swapping about locations, we get the effect we want without much problem.
Promised that Nicky I'd pick her up from the club. Mustn't be late, in case she sets that snake onto me. This is the one, I think.
It's always nice to open the picture up with scenes from various places, locations. It opens the picture out. And in this case, we went to Soho and visited a strip club. This was an actual strip club that we found, and we were allowed to use it. And of course, we had the famous Stephen Lewis, who played Blackie in on the buses, who always parodied Hitler with his peak cap and his moustache. Strangely enough, without the peak cap and the moustache, he almost go unnoticed. But he was a great character to have, and he had to use the voice that he did in On the Buses and the same character.
I'm only here to collect Nicky. I mean, do us a favour, mate. I'll give you my licence number.
It's interesting, actually, to note that when the film played in Belgium, it was a huge amount of business, and we wondered why. And what it was that Blakey, or Stephen Lewis, was so popular in Brussels through On the Buses that he'd become a national icon almost. And so we took him over to Brussels to do a promotion, and it was huge. The crowds turned out in their thousands, and even the mayor turned up for the premiere. And he was like a superstar over in Brussels. I mean, it just shows you how sometimes things can go unexpectedly good when you least expect it. Anna Bergman. Now, Anna Bergman, here she is, played the stripper that worked at the club where Nicky did. Now, Anna Bergman was, believe it or not, the daughter of Ingmar Bergman, the famous Swedish director. And she looked fabulous. She had a wonderful figure. She was a very perky girl and had absolutely no inhibitions about stripping off in film or public or anything else. She was incredible. And when she came on the set, Robert Lindsay always says to me that he couldn't believe that he was playing opposite Ingmar Bergman's daughter, who was playing strip poker in the same scene. And of course, I suppose the Swedes have a completely different attitude to nudity than the British do. I think the British are all a bit shy and reserved, whereas the Swedes absolutely think nothing of it. So she was terrific to have in the movie. A lovely girl. And of course, Barry was more than interested. There was another conquest that he could see coming up. And this is the scene that Robert Lindsay said to me he couldn't believe, that he was sitting opposite this girl who was the famous daughter, the daughter of the famous Ingmar Bergman, who'd made hundreds of movies. It was a great iconic figure.
What do you say, Tom?
No, he doesn't want to play.
Oh, come on, just for a giggle. Got any cards?
Cards? No.
Once again, this was using the facilities of the Muse. This was shot in the Muse that I'd hired. You know, a lot of the film was shot there.
You can always play strip Ouija board if you'd prefer.
A Ouija board, raw Ouija board?
Now let's spin the bottle.
Of course, the whole object of this scene was to get Barry closer to Anna Bergman. And her name was Helga, I remember. So Helga had to eventually end up in bed with Joe, the taxi driver. And this was a good way to do it, a spin the bottle deal, which was made up on the set. We made the whole thing up on the set. It was a bit loose in the script, and you know, I think the scriptwriter didn't quite know how it was going to play, and so this whole scene was made up as we went along. But the main object of it was to get the two of them into bed. Because the reason was that there was going to be an intervention. There was going to be an intervention of Carol Hotchkiss, who was Joe's girlfriend, who rang the doorbell.
I'll get it.
And virtually demanded entrance.
Where's Joe? I came to see him.
Oh, he's not in. He's out.
No, his taxi's here. It's all right, he's expecting me.
And here she comes, and once again, the old theme of the Stanley Long movies, she's... Barry is caught in the act.
Joe's fiancé. I expect he's spoken of me. Which is his room? That one? Thank you, dear.
Carol, listen, I can explain.
Oh, yeah? Angie Schuyler. Angie Schuyler was a very, very famous actress. She was had a principal part in Countess from Hong Kong. She was extremely competent, and she had I was very pleased to get her, because we had a scene which was probably one of the funniest scenes that I'd had to shoot. It involved her taking a bath with Barry, with Joe, the taxi driver. This is, by the way, the exterior of the house just along by where we shot the kitchen. You can see now why that house would have been unsuitable for the exteriors of Joe, the cabbie's house. The interior was okay, the kitchen, but the exterior would have been quite unsuitable. But it was very suitable for the upmarket housewife that lost her key and required assistance. Now, the object of all good comedies really is to have a situation and to build on the situation and let the situation come out with the humour, but you've got to have a credible situation to start with. So the whole business of getting into the house had to be credible. There had to be a reason why Barry was, why the character Joe had to be in the bath, and that all had to be explained. So very important. Credibility is a very important part of comedy, and for a start to get in there, some of it's a bit stretched, I'll admit, but to get into the house to start with, gets him into the house. Now, how he gets into the house is very important, because he gets the ladder, and of course there's got to be a reason why he needs a bath. Now, you'll see that coming up. He finds an open window, which he then prepares to climb the ladder. Thus, up he goes. But from here, how would he end up in the bath with Angie Schuyler, the housewife? No, so you've got to have a reason for it. So up he goes, in he goes, and wallop, he falls over. And what does he fall in? They're decorating the room, and he falls in a paint of, he falls in a pot of paint, which goes all over him. So now he's got to get the housewife up into the house, and he's covered in paint. Now there's a clue as to how he gets involved in the bath with the housewife. When he's dragged her up the ladder...
What do you mean stuck? Just go back down the way you came.
I can't.
Which she's frightened of heights, by the way. This is another little aside, not that important, but it just adds a little bit of interest to the proceedings.
All right, now don't panic. You're quite safe. Just do as I say, okay?
So he's teaching her how to go up the ladder without getting vertigo.
Now the other one. Keep going, you're okay. I'm watching you. Up a bit. No, down just a little. Now in. Towards the wall, that's it. Go on, you're doing fine. Come on. It's all right, you're nearly there. That's it. Now give me a hand. Lovely.
I can't find my feet.
Oh, you're doing wonderful. There you go. You're there.
Now then, she's going to get paint all over her, of course. Going to be all over her. So what's the best thing she suggests? Look, she suggests that they have a bath. And of course, she was absolutely wonderful. When I interviewed her for the part, I said, Angie, you know, you're a very big actress and I want you in this part, but you know, there's a bath scene. She said, so what? So I said, well, you know that it's, you've got to be naked. I said, it's not because I want to show nudity for the sake of it, but I said, she said, I don't usually have a bath in my underwear. She said, of course I'll do it. She said, I usually bath in the nude. So I was absolutely surprised, and I said, well, I'd love to have you, because she was a fabulous actress, and to get an actress of her calibre to strip off completely naked and jump into a bath and have a scene in the bath. She said, I've read the script, and I think it's so funny. She said, I think it's hilarious. She said, I'll do it. I want to do it. So that's how we got Angela Schuyler. And, of course, Brian Wilde played the husband, who inevitably comes in at the wrong moment. He was wonderfully played in Last of the Summer Wine and Porridge. He was the warder in Porridge, if you remember. And he was absolutely right for the deadpan, serious husband that's got a few bob and is married to the lovely housewife in this shot. Now, they're having a wonderful romp in the bath, but in he comes, and he's got to disappear. Now, where the hell did he go? Well, the audience got it first time. He's under the bloody water. Now, he's got to hold his breath. Now, I wondered how many times that I could get Brian Wilde to come into the bathroom. He was boring, and he shut the door because she said go down, and he opened the door again, and he shut the door, and Joe got up out of the bath to catch a breath, and then he got back in again. It was absolute nightmare and I found that I could hold the sequence for as long as I wanted. I had him coming in and out of that bathroom, I think, about 6 times. But the audience, the laughter got louder and louder and louder. The more times he came back in the room, the more they laughed. And, of course, the plight of Joe underneath the water, and Angie, who was sitting on top of it, was supposed to be. Of course, we didn't shoot it that way. As you can imagine, we have our ways of shooting things. She wasn't sitting on him at all, but it looked like it. And he was prattling on, and she was trying to get rid of him, and the anxiety in her face was showing. I mean, she was a brilliant actress, and it all worked very well. And it was all shot in an actual bathroom in the same house that we'd shot the kitchen sequences with Diana Dors. It was a small bathroom, and that's what it was. So the cameraman and the sound man, they're all huddled in this little tiny bathroom and shot this scene. And I think it came out very well. In a studio, you'd have had you've had a great big bathroom with a bath in the corner, but we didn't have that. Once again, it was a low-budget movie, and it had to be done this way. And the laughter in this scene, I remember from the time this bath scene happened till the time the scene ended was 7 minutes. And we had complete laughter in the cinema all the way through. And I remember that I recorded the laughter and used it in a radio trailer for the film. It was very gratifying to sit in the cinema and hear the laughter, and the timing was brilliant from the artists.
Yes, I think I do need a drink.
It's all right now. It's all right now. Come on, quick.
Now, you'd think that was going far enough, but, you know, it's always nice in comedy if you have a big laughing thing to top it with an even bigger laughter. And this is how I did it. And this was basically made up on the day. We got him to close the window because it was cold, and Barry was stuck outside with no clothes. He'd left them inside the house, so he escaped just with his jacket into the cab, though he had no clothes on except for his jacket. Now, you'd think that was good, but actually, no, I wasn't happy with that. I wanted it even more. You get greedy, you know, and you think you can get some more laughs. So off he goes, and I had dreamt up this scene where he gets stopped. Now, he wouldn't normally have stopped, but there was a policeman there, and he stopped him on a pedestrian crossing. And then, of course, the woman who drops her shopping, so there's a bit of a delay there, and in the course of that delay, he's impatient. Someone runs over, and by God, it's a nun. Someone runs over, jumps in the taxi before he can say no, and tells him where he wants to take her. And that was another big laugh in the cinema. And so off he goes. You've got to keep the laughter going now because he's in a predicament again. And because it's a nun. Why a nun? I don't know, because a nun, you know, I mean, just it's funny that he picked the nun up, and he's got to go to a convent. So he stops outside the convent, and if that's not enough, then what happens? She asks him,
I wonder if I could trouble you to help me with my cases.
Exactly, you know, I mean, what on earth could go wrong? Now he's looked this way and that way and see there's nobody about, so you take a run for it. Grabs the case, of course he's, you know, he's absolutely knackered. He was very good, actually, because that was a very daring scene to do. And now he sees a policewoman. Now, you know, how far can you take this? It's great fun, this, and of course he gets away. You've got to end somewhere, and this is where he ends it. So actually, I ended the scene with the dialogue in the next scene when he gets back to his flat.
Oh, I thought I heard you come in.
It's costing me a bloody fortune in jeans, this job.
How come?
I keep losing them.
Exactly, which is the purpose of the whole film. He kept losing his jeans. So, you know, this is the way comedies build up, and that's why if they work and they're successful, they've got to have this credibility. It's no good just being funny words and funny lines. Don't make a funny movie, I'm afraid. Very rarely. It's situations that make funny movies. And if you ain't got a situation, you ain't got a movie. Now, we needed a change of tone here, and so what we did, we had this kidnap. Now, that was a very dramatic turn for a comedy, and a cab driver would be very concerned about this, because why him? And, you know, he's used to picking up beautiful girls and having loads of lovely adventures, and a kidnapping wasn't on his list. But the audience didn't know what was coming here, and so the picture actually took a dramatic turn. From being a comedy, suddenly it was a serious situation. Now, the guy on the right here, sitting in the back, is Andy Seacombe, and Andy Seacombe was the son of Harry Seacombe. He was a very famous guy, actor and singer, a Welsh singer, very famous. He took the Beadle part in Oliver Twist, very big, and Andrew was his son, lovely bloke, but he was a minor actor then, and he took this part, and the whole scene was played for real. There was no laughs here, and they took. We got a bomb site. He was ordered to various turn this way, turn that way, to get through this bomb site. We wonder what the hell Joe's going to do about this situation. It's frightening, and so the audience just didn't know what was going to happen, and that was the whole intention. And what was this doing in a comedy film? What was funny about this? Nothing at all. It was a completely serious situation that you'd see in a gangster film, and we played it absolutely straight.
Out of the cab. Nice and easy now. No sudden moves or this baby goes on. All right, buddy, out of the cab. Now keep it cool. Put your hands on your head. Now turn around. Come on, turn around.
And we played it completely straight, right up to the end. And there's got to be, because it's a comedy film, and it's that kind of film, there's got to be an abrupt turn at the end, which turns it into a comedy. Now, how do you do this? Well, you'll see. And, you know, the device that we did it with was laughter. Suddenly the villain just burst into fits of laughter, and suddenly we were back into our comedy again.
Look, come on, you can relax now.
And all was revealed.
He fell for it. I don't believe it.
It had been a prank, and it worked very well. I mean, the audience laughed at it, and I think it gave some sort of relief to the comedy, you know. It was a nice touch to have in a comedy film where it suddenly changed into a gangster film, if you like.
Oh, don't forget to get the paper signed.
Oh, yes. I almost forgot about that. Look, we have to bring back some kind of proof that we actually did it. So, look, do you think you'd mind signing your name to this bit of paper? And if you could add your cab number, that would be great.
Oh, dear.
Thanks, mate.
It wouldn't have been complete, really, if the film hadn't gone into the nightlife of the cabbie. Cabbies are very prolific, they're very plentiful in the West End of London, and so we thought it would be very good to have a scene in London. Now, the cabbies are well known for sort of being very friendly with the girls on the game, and it wasn't unknown for the cab drivers to pick up girls and their clients and drive them around when they had a little diddly-do in the back of the taxi. Now, working on this theme, I got a great coup. I got the great Liz Fraser, who'd worked with just about every comedy actor in the business. She was very experienced. This was a very difficult scene. We were in a taxi. We needed an actress who could perform and say her dialogue in the taxi. We had the camera crew in there. We had the camera man and the camera assistant in the front with a big bulky sound camera. We had the sound men crouched down in the back of the cab with the artist, and there was me balancing on the running board, overseeing the whole operation. Now, this was at the time when Leicester Square was open. You could drive round and round, and we drove round and round Leicester Square. The taxi was towed by another car with a fixed tow, and Barry and Liz did their dialogue in the cab. Now, this is a very funny scene. Liz had lots of dialogue. She was portraying the character of a very bubbly prostitute, and Barry was a great mate, and he was sort of in on the situation where these girls used to take these clients in the cab and give them to want a better word, a blow job in the back of the cab. And this is what this was based on. Now, it wouldn't have been very sensible just to do that as a salacious sex scene, and I wouldn't have had it in my movie anyway. But there is a funny side to it, as you'll see.
Fourth one I've had this week with a cold. Only hope to God I don't go down with it. That's my trouble, you know. Anything that's going the rounds, I seem to pick up.
Yeah,
Now, note the background, and we're really in the taxi, and this is really being shot with the taxi on the go.
Oh my God.
Now, that was one of the funniest scenes, I think, and it absolutely raised the roof in the cinema. It raised the roof. I mean, they just fell about. Now, this is another very interesting sequence, which came out of an experience of another friend of mine, actually, who'd been in the south of France. He'd picked up a very beautiful girl, or he chatted her up in a bar. He picked her up in a bar, and he got friendly with her, and he'd taken her out to dinner. And he said to me that this girl was fantastic. He couldn't wait, and he took her back to the hotel, and he couldn't wait to get her into bed. And this is a true story. And he started to make love to her, and to his absolute horror, he discovered that it wasn't a girl at all. It was a fella. And he said, as he put it, he said, I said, you know, when did you discover? When he got a handful, he said. And he absolutely was devastated by this experience, and he said it affected him, and he was so careful with who the girls he mixed with after that. He said he had nightmares about this situation. Well, I turned this into a situation for the film, and together with Michael Armstrong, I wrote this scene, and we used an actor. He was quite good. He was a bit effeminate anyway, but to start with. But we had to make it credible. So, I mean, Joe, the very experienced taxi driver, would have to be very convinced. I mean, this girl was taller than him, and I think it was a very funny scene. And at the end of it, you know, I wanted a sort of payoff line, and you'll see the payoff line eventually. But once again, this was using the muse again, because the muse was the centre point of the action. And it must have been when Tom and Nicky were out one evening, but he had the flat to himself and entertained this Bunny McQueen, as she was called. The actor's name was Stephen Riddle, if I remember rightly. I don't know what he's doing now, but I'm sure there's a lot of jobbing actors out there that do quite a lot of work, and then not known. You know, they don't get known. They don't get a lot of praise and glory. Of course, the important thing is that, of course, the audience realise what this is, and the characters are not supposed to. So the audience are way ahead of the main character, which is essential for the comedy, of course. You must get the audience in the know, and this is a very important thing to watch. Who knows what? Sometimes like, for example, in the last scene with the kidnap, it's essential the audience don't know. So the audience are not in it. In fact, nobody's in on it, except the director or the screenwriter. But that's a different way. So in this case, the audience has got to know that this is a fellow. It's got to suspect this is a fellow, which, strangely enough, the taxi driver, Bob the taxi driver, doesn't. Not Bob, Joe. Joe the taxi driver doesn't suspect that it's a fella because he's got to find out.
I think you've got the most beautifully shaped breasts I've ever seen. Really beautiful.
Yes. Yet they're much better now. Mind you, they cost me a fortune.
So, why don't we give them a little air to breathe, eh? You've got lovely legs and all. Really lovely.
I have to shave them, of course.
Bloody hell!
What's the matter?
You're a fella!
But of course I am. What did you think I was?
Of course, here comes the line.
Wonder if I could have him under the Trace Descriptions Act.
There's Michael Armstrong, the scriptwriter, trying to get a cab. A guest appearance, and then you'll see him get out of the cab at the other end. And oh my goodness, we've got a repeat of the last scene, the kidnap scene. We've got a repeat, we've got a robbery on our hands. And in the taxi they get and demand him to drive. Now, this was in a very good effort, actually, to sort of bring the story back together again. Because always with a comedy, you've got to have a story running through it. You don't want to be too long on the story, but now we're getting back to the gritty bitty, and this is for real. So once again, now the audience think, oh, this is another gag. And of course, Joe, the cab driver, thinks it's another gag. But of course it isn't. It's for real. But he thinks, oh yeah, any minute I'll pay you money and all the rest of it. Yeah, it's the same old gag that we had before.
So shut up and keep driving.
Oh, well, I suppose I've got to come on heavy, otherwise it wouldn't count. I wonder when they get round to the bit about doing me in. Not as good as the last lot. Much more realistic they were.
You notice how this confidence with the audience is talking to the camera, i.e. the audience. It works very well because you can slip in and bring the audience into the fray, as it were. And we used it quite a lot in this movie.
On your way.
Paper?
I just think it would save us all a lot of time, that's all.
What paper? What are you talking about?
You know, for your mates. I hereby declare I've done the dreadful deed and all that rubbish. I won't tell them I cottoned on.
Listen, just shut up and keep driving.
Oh, come on now, don't let's get carried away. I mean, a joke's a joke, but I keep losing business doing this lot.
Yeah, that won't be the only thing you'll lose. You don't belt up.
Well, look, fair's fair, but you go too far. I'm not going to sign your paper. I'm warning you, so just watch your step.
I'll see you.
Left! Sharp left!
And back to the muse again, but that's where we're going, and suddenly it all comes, it's all explained.
I mean, I told him about the other kidnap, and he thought, very funny.
And like all good thrillers, everything starts to work out, and everything's explained that's happened before.
What are you doing here?
You should know. What a bloody...
And there you go. Who suspected that Tom the mechanic was involved? But he obviously is.
What happened? Where's the car?
Parked on a double yellow line, didn't he? Eh? We do the job, come rushing out with the stuff. There's a getaway car being done for parking. Had to come back by cab.
And of all the cabs in London, you had to pick... Ha ha! No!
Of course, this is where it all came together, and once again we're back in the Mews flat again. You can see how much we used that. That's why we needed it for a week. I think we were a week and a day there altogether.
Don't worry.
How much do you think I'm worth?
Now look, Nicky, we haven't got time for all that, love. Take them off, please.
I knew I'd look good in expensive things.
Yeah, you look lovely. Now get them off.
Right, well, if you've all finished with me, I think I'd better get back to work.
Sit down. You ain't going anywhere.
Yeah, well, I just thought...
Well, don't.
Who that can be? That's obviously the police.
I thought taxi driving was a strain. Right, let's get this stuff away somewhere. It's making me nervous lying around the place.
Yeah, where are you going to put it?
I know, a place where no one will look. Nicky?
Oh, I'm here, Monty.
But no, I think
Christ almighty.
I think it's someone else.
You two know each other?
Yeah.
Yes, it's his brother. He's in on it as well. And Monty the Snake, Monty the Python, he's involved. You see, all these things have got to be put into the script, and they all have to pop up, and they all have to be credible, and they're all in there for a reason. So, you know, this is the construction of a good script, and it's often lost in low-budget movies, and that's why I think that scripts are so important. In fact, if you haven't got a script, you haven't got a film. And a lot of films go off a bit half-cocked as far as scripts are concerned. And, you know, Alfred Hitchcock always said, once I've finished the script, I've made the movie. All I've got to do is to shoot it. That's the boring piece. And he was absolutely right, because if you haven't got it in the script, it isn't in the film. All you can do when you're shooting is to add little touches and little bits that may or may not work, but it mustn't form, it must work. The script must work from start to finish, and you must stick to the script. Anything you can add to it, great, but if it doesn't work, you've got to be prepared to leave it out, because it doesn't have a place. And I always used to use that premise, and that's why I think the films worked, because they didn't have silly things that led to nowhere. They all came up, and there she is, the manic girlfriend who pops up at the most awkward moments. Adrian Poster always added a lot of life to any scene, and this is a scene that could have been quite dull, but for her intervention.
Oh, Joe.
Who do you think I meant? Mickey Mouse?
He's out. Working.
What? When his taxi's here? What's he driving? Horse and cart?
His taxi's not here. He's out in it.
Really? Well, I have just bumped into the tall lady from number 3 with a toy poodle and a blue rinse. And according to her, Joe's taxi drove into your garage 10 minutes ago. So unless it's gone straight through your back wall, it's still here, isn't it?
Well, you see, I wouldn't know about that, because I was asleep.
He's up there, isn't he? He's up there with another bloody bird! Oh.
Joe, get rid of her.
What am I supposed to do?
You're in a compromising position with your
You see how less a film it would have been without the talents of someone like Adrian Poster. She just... the screen just lit up when she was on, because she made she made it look great. And her dialogue and the way she put it over was absolutely fabulous. And she was a very easy girl to direct. I mean, she didn't need to direct her very much. She just did it. And I always think that this film demonstrates the epitome of what a good low-budget movie should be. It doesn't. You don't have to have a large budget. You don't have to have mega stars to make a comedy. It can be right if the script is right and if it's approached in the right manner. And happened to be that at that time, as is always, sex is a very, very important ingredient. People like to see a bit of sex in films, but you must have a reason for it. You cannot just put sex in unless you're going to make a really explicit film, and that's a different market entirely.
It's just that I get the impression... I mean, what's he doing here for a start?
Just come to see my brother, haven't I?
Now, this is a whodunit, really, and like all good whodunits, everything has to be explained in the end. So it has to be tied up in a neat ribbon and with a great big bow on the top. And what happens is, of course, the police do eventually come in on this. And I was very lucky to get a very, very good person to play the inspector.
Yes, I'm thirsty. I could do with one.
No, about me being the only girl in the world.
Of course I do. Come on.
Oh, well, don't push me, all right? I mean, the pubs aren't even open yet.
So, we can wait.
Which one did you want to go to?
Well, anyway,
Yeah. Oh, all right.
Thank God for that.
Good day, sir.
Now, this is an interesting way, because the inspector, they wouldn't have opened the door. Boom, they opened the door. They wouldn't have opened the door if they rang the bell, so they opened the door, and there he was, Henry McGee. Now, Henry McGee was a very, very well-known face. He'd done a lot of work on television. He was Benny Hill's sidekick, very, very good straight man. And he played this part dead straight, deadpan. And he was a great foil for Adrian Poster, who made this scene really come to life, because Henry McGee played it so straight as the inspector. And Adrian didn't know what was going on, of course, so she put her foot in it big time.
To be this sort of leak, don't you?
I didn't know there was an age limit.
What are we supposed to be helping his inquiries with?
Carol, love.
It's to do with sex, isn't it? You've been having orgies up here, haven't you? That's what it is, isn't it? Orgies.
No, ma'am.
Well, it must be something like that. I mean, if Joe's anything to do with it, it must be sexy.
You've got a one-track mind, you have.
All right, if it's not orgies...
And I think really this scene is typical of when you get a lot of really top artists together, how they react with each other. And this scene really was very funny because of the talents that I had in this particular scene. I mean, there was Robert Lindsay and Henry McGee and Adrian Poster and Judy Geeson. And, of course, Monty the Python.
You're not going to find anything, you know.
We'll see. Life's full of little surprises, isn't it? Jesus Christ! I'm sorry, sir, I didn't mean to shout. It's just there's a bloody snake in there.
That is Monty. He is my speciality, and he's very highly strung. Please don't upset him. He's got a performance tonight.
There's nothing there, sir.
Told you.
Yeah, I've just realised. You're looking for stolen property.
Carol, why don't you belt up?
Look at that shake of it. I mean, coming in here and searching this place like law criminals. No, you. Tell him, Joe. Go on, tell him.
Carol, will you shut up, Carol?
Go on, tell him. Ask to see his search warrant. Go on, ask. Go on. If you don't ask, I shall never speak to you again, even though I have forgiven you.
Have you got something to say, then? Well, Inspector.
Go on, tell him to get out.
Yes,
And tell him to apologise. Tell him you know your rights. Tell him you'll sue him for libel if he don't apologise.
She'll get me jailed for life.
Go on, Joe, tell him. Joe is my fiancé.
Well, Inspector, as you don't appear to have found anything...
That's right, really lay it on him.
I suggest we, call it a day, don't you?
That's a bit pathetic, isn't it?
Carol!
I mean, he's just called us a bunch of criminals. We could sue him for that.
Excuse me, ma'am. I haven't called any of you criminals. Yet.
Oh, yes, you did. I heard you. You said we had stolen goods. What sort of people do you think we are, accusing us of being criminals? We are respectable, we are. I have never done anything criminal in my life. I work in a supermarket.
Vicky.
And as for Joe, well, he's a taxi driver. And Peter is, well... And as for Tom, well, you could hardly call him...
Taxi Driver really worked with audiences worldwide. There's something extremely rewarding about sitting with an audience who are falling about laughing, and I used to do that quite a lot. I used to go around cinemas and sneak in the back row and watch the reaction, because it taught me an awful lot about comedy timing. It taught me, you know, when to sort of... when to stop and when to start, and you know, how long to hold a scene, and how, when you don't hold the scene, and how long the gaps have to be to allow for the laughter of the audience. All that has to be taken into account. And the great thing about cinema is that if it isn't funny, the audience don't laugh, and they'll tell you by their lack of response whether it's funny or not, and you can learn an awful lot. This is something that television producers and directors don't get, because they can't hear their audiences. They put canned laughter on, and that's not the answer, frankly. And you know, I hated the critics. They are liars. They write things to show how clever they are. And very rarely are they really honest about what they've seen. I remember a woman called Anna Rabin, a girl called Anna Rabin in those days, who was a critic. And she was in on a screening that I did for 500 cab drivers in the West End. And they absolutely loved the film. They laughed all the way through. She sat there, po-faced, and I was absolutely flabbergasted to hear the critic that she did on Capital Radio. She said there wasn't one single laugh, and it was a load of rubbish. Now, that woman was a liar. She was a hypocrite, and I think that, frankly, she betrayed her bigoted views, and she was a hypocritical snob. You see, she was a staunch feminist, and she liked to say the right thing. Now, that is not very clever, but the short answer is that I had the last laugh, because it was a highly successful film, and it made me a fortune. And yeah, I had a lot of fun making it. Back in 1965, it holds a lot of happy memories for me. And probably we had one final joke, because I always think the film should end up with a laugh. And we visit the suicide girl again. And this time, I mean, it's not a big laugh, but at least the audience go out with a smile on their face.